Hi there. In this lecture we're going to have a look at a very bad defense. So after e4, e5, knight f3, f6, this is a very bad move. Unfortunately, it's been called Damiano's defense after Damiano, Paul Pedro Damiano. So he was a Portuguese chess player and pharmacist. He made significant contributions to chess literature. Way back in 1512, he authored one of the oldest and comprehensive chess books about chess, and he covered the rules of chess, strategic advice, guidance on blindfold chess, a collection of chess problems, and also opening analysis. And in that opening analysis, he had analysed this position and considered knight c6 to be the strongest, and f6 to just be a big mistake. Despite his criticism of f6, that sequence is now named after him. I don't know. It's unfair, isn't it? So it cemented his legacy to a bad opening. So anyway, so why is it so bad? It's actually immediately punishable. What would you play for 10 points? It's immediately punishable. There is a mini kind of diagonal of death here, which has been opened up, giving us access to the king. So that's a clue. We see in many traps around this course. These pawn moves which give access to the king, like d6, can lead to traps later. But f6 is immediately bad because of knight takes e5. Now most players will follow with f takes e5. Let's consider this first on the good news aspects, the very good news aspects if they take. This is a very bad news. It's very bad news for the opponent because it's a very bad move. Now, the better move, which we'll consider later, is queen e7, which actually has a trap installed for us. But yeah, let's consider f takes e5. So in the case of queen h5 check, here, if they play g6, it's very clear cut. We just take on e5 check, and we take the rook. So we end up material up overall. Yeah, this is a disaster for them. We're material up, and not only that, we're getting a development tempo there. g3 would shield our pawn if they did play queen h4. We can continue harassing the queen. d4 is well and truly possible now, because they don't really want to take on f2 because of rook f1. And look at this skewer against f8. If they play d6, we can put the pressure on f8 anyway. And here, it's just a tremendous position. So what happened in that move sequence, to recap, we did actually sacrifice a knight to end up winning a rook. So it's a way of, if g6, this is king e7, which is even worse in a way. Well, it's also got its problems. It's got problems. But g6, so we sacrifice the knight and we win a rook. So it's a way of winning the exchange here. And also we're one pawn up. It's the exchange plus a pawn up, materially. So in terms of bits, apart from the queens, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're just the exchange up, but we've also got these tempo gainers which are really good for us. So that is clear enough. g6. Now what if king e7? So here we have fun getting another pawn, so it's 2 pawns for the sacrificed knight. Now on king f7, remember it's 2 pawns for the sacrificed knight. Bishop c4 check. There's a move which doesn't get mated here, which is d5. Let's look at the better news for us, king g6, which does get mated by force, basically. We would play queen f5 check. And now h4 is really strong, one of the strong moves. There's many. So here, queen e7, d3 check, g5 trying to find a defense, h takes g5, double check, forces the king to move. And here, a cute move is, for 10 points, yeah, bishop d2, just get this bishop on this killer diagonal. So d5, bishop c3 check. And black's only really delaying getting absolutely crushed. This is really just crushing. So yeah, king g6 basically does get mated by force. The best try for black is d5. So we get another pawn. It's 3 pawns for the knight. And there's at least 2 very, very strong moves here. One is queen g3 check. And let's assume queen g5. We get 4 pawns for the knight, with queen f7 being threatened. So this can be devastating in its own right. Let's say knight d7, h4, queen e5. This would be a scenario where black does not get checkmated, but we've got like 4 pawns for the knight by this stage. We've got all of our pawns, and black's missing 4 pawns. We've got 4 pawns for the knight. If black had taken on g2, this is really quite funny. We have a spectacular move. I know it feels overkill to analyse this stuff, but there is a really great move in the circumstance. For 10 points, what would you play? We can actually aim for this queen f4 here. It doesn't matter about the rook, because here, in this position, let's say h5, we've got bishop f7 check, and here queen f5 check is mating. Yeah, if h6, then there's just, they've taken out the escape square of the king. Queen f5 is checkmate. And yeah, it's all pretty much winning. If h5, then we've got all sorts of things here, including queen f5 check, and just opening up the bishop is going to be leading to disaster at minimum. There's all sorts of ways of winning here. So queen takes here, it's very difficult for black to stop the threats here. Yeah, bishop f7, this is a cute way. So that's one way, queen takes c7. There's also another, that's one way, queen g3 check from this position. It's so strong, the position. But there's also h4, which has got some serious traps to it, on h6, which seems to give the king evacuation. We really want the move queen f5. This is instructive tactically. So when we really want something and there's one key guard, this calls out for a deflection of that key guardian of f5. Can you see a major, this is important, like deflection to know about. It's a classic deflection to know about. White play here for 10 points. Yeah, it's a good tactical test, revisiting these traps, even if you've seen them before. Check for our tactics, understanding. So white play, remove the guard is the name of the game. Try and understand what we're doing. We're removing the guard of f5. They've blocked the h6 square. They've taken out a key escape square with the move h6. So that's why queen f5 would be checkmate now. We can play the powerful bishop takes b7. In the case of bishop takes b7, queen f5 is now checkmate. In the case of bishop d6, we can hang around protecting our bishop with queen b5. If c6, what we can do here, well, there's different moves, but one of them is actually queen d3 now because of this e5. If bishop takes b7, e5 check. And we can go back to b3, take out b7, so we're hitting the rook, hitting the bishop. This is pretty devastating stuff for black. So yes, just to recap here, in this sequence of events, king f7, bishop c4, if they don't want to get mated, they play d5. But we reach this remarkable position where there are 2 amazing moves here. Either queen g3 is good, or we can even just play h4, which in some ways seems more logical, even though queen g3 is actually the top engine move. But this seems more logical to try and still aim to quickly checkmate the opponent. And that would come true here if bishop takes b7. So yeah, this is a very, very dangerous position for black. There's ample compensation. So, but also queen g3 is super strong technically taking out another pawn here. And there are some fun lines here if we want to quickly checkmate. Here with queen f7 check. And here, if king h6, d4 here would be strong. This is another strong position where e5 is actually protecting our rook, X-ray defense of the rook. So yeah, on this queen g5 line, yeah, this is great. Queen g4, knight d2. This is just a crushing position. The king's been really inconvenienced. It's going to be game over soon. Check, check, check. And this is like going to be game over. So that variation, yeah. So the two key moves, queen g3 is a strong move, but also h4. In the queen g3, there's remarkable stuff going on here. If they don't play knight d7, if they play queen takes g2, there is remarkable stuff going on against the king here, where we're not doing anything too clever. We're just checking the opponent. And then, okay, an X-ray defense of the rook is absolutely, it's a crushing position. So yeah, the whole thing seems, that was like really, really good news. So what bad news could there possibly be? I'll leave that for the next lecture to separate the analysis out a bit. Queen e7. We could be very routinely playing a move here which could leave us in a completely lost position. So I'll leave that in suspense for the next lecture, the potentially bad news here if we misplay this position. Okay, thanks very much. Thanks for checking out this free sample trap video. If you want more information about traps, I do have a dedicated course on Udemy, more than 20-hour course, a fun lover's guide to the major chess opening traps. What's more, you can get a big discount if you visit kingscrusher.tv, so that URL top left. Kingscrusher.tv will give you a big discount. So there's actually, at this point of this recording, there's 21.5 hours of video, and there's a PGN download as well, if you want to analyze as well along with the video content. You can also do expand all sections and get to see the free preview videos there as well. If you do expand all sections, there's these free preview links to check out. So it's a well-structured course. The intro lectures cover all different angles of traps generally, and there's traps with like e4, also d4, also even the English opening and other stuff, and then it goes with black. So it's a really, really fun course to see these traps and the mechanics behind them, the mechanics and tactical patterns used, reinforcing your tactics. So I do hope you check that out, check out the free samples, and maybe even enroll in that course. Now, also, just to help me on YouTube, I hope you do leave a comment, any comments or questions, any traps you think should be covered that maybe haven't been, or you want more insight into them. Please let me know in a comment. Leaving any comment would be greatly appreciated if you got to this point of the video. Okay, thanks very much.